We had the first gameplay for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the announcement of a big DLC for Horizon Forbidden West, but also a ton of brand new game reveals during the Game Awards. As you might know, our breakdown for the Star Wars and Horizon trailers are already up on the channel, so in this video I want to look at 6 brand new single player titles that are totally on my radar now after their debut trailer. So if you are curious about new single player games, then totally leave a like on the video, which would support the channel as well, subscribe for more upcoming game roundups like this, and let's go. You probably know Donut, right? From Life is Strange, but they also made Remember Me and more recently Vampire. Well, they're doing another game more like that, an action RPG called Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. It's set in 1695, we follow 2 lovers who are also ghost hunters, only Antia, the lady, has been turned into a spirit after a mission went completely wrong. So now it's our goal to liberate her from this state, but that will likely come at a cost of the people living in New Eden, because just like in the previous Donut games, our choices and actions will have consequences. So while everyone will see red alone, we can actually see our wife, and we also saw that in the small bit of gameplay that looked pretty awesome. We can actually play both characters and combine Red's weapons with her abilities to fight these supernatural forces. There should be new gear to collect, secrets to uncover. I'm intrigued, I want to see more. It's planned for 2023 for current gen consoles and PC. A trend we've been seeing often recently is that veteran developers leave the familiar publishers to start their own thing. Like Ben Brode is a famous example. He worked on Hearthstone at Blizzard and now released Marvel Snap with his own studio. We saw a new trailer for Nightingale at the Game Awards, this mostly made by ex-BioWare people, Embark Studios, that showed Arc Raiders last year, but first wants to launch their shooter called The Finals, which looks a lot like Battlefield because it's made by senior people from DICE. Well, another one of those developers is called Zenden Studios. They consist of ex-Dead Space people who then founded Sledgehammer to work on Call of Duty, but now left to make their own team with the plan to launch Immortals of Aveum in 2023. It's a single player shooter where we play a battle mage, so instead of helicopters there will be dragons, and we're not using an assault rifle but a sigil that we saw at the start of the trailer to cast magic. It can change shape as well, and we can also find different types of sigils to cast different spells. So it sounds a bit like Wonderlands, only in that game we still had guns, which should not be the case in Immortals. I really love the brief look we have at the fantasy world called Aveum, so instead of corridors that you mostly see in other single player shooters, this should be more epic according to the developer, so likely more open spaces. They also hired a lot of ex-Telltale people who were let go when that studio closed down, like a lot of higher ups, so expect a big narrative focus as well. It's totally on my radar for 2023 on PlayStation 5, PC and Xbox Series, and it's published by the Originals label from EA. So that's the label that also published It Takes Two and is launching that Monster Hunter-like game called Wild Hearts. So some cool things happening over there. Now, one of the standout trailers during the Game Awards was totally for Judas, the new game from the mastermind behind Bioshock, Ken Levine. A lot happens in this short 1 minute and a 29-second video, but it's clear that it will be a single player game similar to his previous work. So this time we're on a disintegrating starship and have to figure out an escape plan, either fix what you broke or just leave it burn. The trailer shows multiple characters who we can seemingly choose to work together with one also jumping on a turret to take out enemies for us, but maybe we can choose to fight against these characters too. Seems like the magical plasmids are making a return. Like, I'm curious if this ends up being connected to Bioshock at all and how it will differ from 2K's other Bioshock game that they have also in development by a completely separate team. Now, Jeff Keighley noted during the Game Awards that he already played a few hours of Judas, so they must be well on their way, which also not weird because the most recent title Ken Levine worked on was Bioshock Infinite, which launched in March 2013. Now, there were reports that there were some issues behind the scenes and that the development was not going well, so I hope that we see this game game soon, and that it's not like a title that shows up every year without a firm date. Right now, we only know it's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC, but have no release year or other indication whatsoever. Okay, this game was not newly announced, but we did get the first gameplay, so I still think it's worth discussing. Maybe you already see it. This, of course, the Lords of the Fallen. They're going for a way more darker tone than the original. The art direction looks really good. It's made on Unreal Engine 5 and takes place 1,000 years after the first game. The trailer really focuses on the fact that there are two versions of the same world, the living and the dead. And a really cool element is that if you die in Aveum, the bright overworld that is covered with lava, they will have one chance to return to your living state by battling your way through the more darker, creepy realm of Umbral. So it seems like you can still switch on the fly thanks to your lantern, but are forced to survive the darker realm to probably not lose any progress after you die. And also cool is that both realms will have unique paths, side quests, NPCs, enemies and treasures, so it's a very clever way to increase the amount of content, with them also saying that it's 5 times larger than the size of the original. So while you can totally pick one of the 9 classes at the start and play through the game alone, there is also co-op or PvP where other players can invade, Dark Souls and Elden Ring style. Like, it's clear that they take a ton of inspiration from FromSoft, but I still think that it will be cool to see an interesting twist on the formula, and again, the world looks very promising. 2023, also on PS5, Xbox Series and PC. And speaking of From Software, they did not announce any Elden Ring DLC, but they did show Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. So this is being led by the lead designer on Sekiro, although it will not be a Soulsborne game, but instead be more like the previous Armored Core titles, although the story is not connected. So while the previous game was more multiplayer focused, this one focuses more on the single player, but will still have some multiplayer elements. It's not open world, but will keep the mission-based design that we also saw before, where you will likely get a briefing and are then tasked to blow up other machines and vehicles. You're seeing some older Armored Core gameplay on PS3 right here, like this gives a better indication of what the game will be, but then of course with the graphics that we saw in the new Armored Core 6 trailer. The trailer did show multiple mechas, and there is a stronger emphasis on customization this time around. Boss fights should also be a highlight, like there are way more resources now than during the development of the previous titles, with From Software of course being way bigger than before, so I'm curious what a post Dark Souls and Elden Ring Armored Core game will look like. It should be coming 2023 to PS5, Xbox Series and PC. Now, one of the most beautiful shots during the Game Awards was totally from the Death Stranding 2 trailer, where we see, I think, mules in the new orange suits. Maybe they're from a different organization. Like, totally correct me if I'm wrong. I finished the first game, but my knowledge is totally a bit rusty. But damn, this is the first time that we see Guerrilla's Decima engine used for an exclusive PlayStation 5 game. Looking really good, and I also hope that this means that there are more varied and impressive looking worlds. So this time around, we see some returning characters like Fragile. Troy Baker is back. He was of course Hicks in the first game, stuck on the beach, just like Amelie, but they now look like a combined person. Again, your theories more than welcome in the comments down below. I'm not sure what Kojima has in mind. I personally have a weird relationship with this game. Like, I admire the world. I think the characters are interesting and the trailers are always great. This one is no exception. But for me, they have to change the FedEx delivery type gameplay to be more combat focused, because if it's more of the same, then I get that people will like that, but I don't think I can do another game where I'm just running around delivering goods. Fragile does say to Norman Reedus that it's time for you to hit the road and start a new journey, so we will likely play as him again. No release indication yet, but Kojima did rewrite the whole script after COVID, so might still be some time before we see it on PlayStation 5 exclusively, and probably later than on PC. So curious what your favorite single player game is of the ones that I highlighted here. I wanted to focus on the third and first person single player titles that I mostly cover here on the channel. So totally subscribe for more roundups like this and updates on the titles that I mentioned here. A like on the video would really help me out. And totally check out our breakdown of the new gameplay and trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor by clicking on the screen. For now, I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.